Hello, Nin! Yes, it is an art stream. I don't know how long I'll stream for, but I was like, I haven't streamed in a while, and I really need to. And Court keeps nagging me about working on comic pages, so I'm gonna do that. Because then Nin has more comic pages to color. I did add 2 to the Google Drive, so there should be 2 new ones in there for you to play around with. They're not in order. And then I'm not sure if you started on page 7 or not. I think you have the most updated page, but in case you don't, the one that has parentheses 1 in it is fresh from my computer. So if you haven't started, use that one instead, and maybe rename it so we know which one it is. Yeah, the page 7's the one with the big background on it, so I'm not entirely sure if you started on that one or not. Yeah. I'm glad you like the art streams. I'm getting a little bit more comfortable with streaming overall, so hopefully they will be more entertaining. I'm gonna turn my music down just a smidge. I don't know how the mix is for you guys. Yes, the big background. It's all flatted, so you shouldn't have any problems there. But I imagine that one's probably going to take you a hot while, just because there are a lot of details. And however you want to approach it is totally cool with us. As long as it stays relatively the same time of day. And same, like, weather. Wow. Court discovered today that there's a bunch of public libraries in our area that have learning centers. And these learning centers, if you've got a library card, which if you live in the county, you get a library card. They have like courses you can take, like free courses you can take, or like free equipment you can get access to. And some of this equipment is like a CNC machine or a 3D printer, or like access to like courses that'll teach you like Blender or Python or stuff like that for like game development. And I'm like, well, that would have been nice to know about a while ago. So we just learned about that. So we're gonna investigate a little bit to see if we can get any access to that kind of stuff. I'm really curious to see if they've got like any way to cut stickers, because if we can do stickers locally, that would be fantastic. See streaming creative work as simply sharing your workspace. Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like, I guess if you kind of think about it like those restaurants where you can see, or those bakeries where you can see into, like, behind the scenes, like into the kitchen and stuff like that. You can see them preparing the food and stuff like that. Or those. This is such a morbid example, but like back in the day, especially during the Victorian period, surgeons would like operate on their patients in a theater, basically, like in an amphitheater, and that must have been a horrific experience for the poor patients, basically being like, your treatment is being used. Yeah, so you're actively getting treated for something, and most of the time, and of course, like that. So this is also back during the age of lobotomies, and you'd have all these medical students and nurses and everything like that watching the procedure and taking notes while your surgeon is not only performing the operation, but is also explaining it and teaching at the same time. And it's like, having their focus split like that is horrifying to think about. Like I'm all for medical students, going to hospitals and learning, like getting some hands-on learning and everything like that. But maybe not when, one single lapse in judgment or attention or anything like that results in the patient, like getting a needle jammed in the wrong part of their brain. Not that there's any right place to jam a needle in the brain, but you know what I mean. Assassin's Creed Syndicate is one of my favorite Assassin's Creed games, and there is a mission in that game where you infiltrate a hospital where one of those demonstrations is happening. And yeah, it's pretty crazy. They also have like something, there's a very similar thing in Baldur's Gate 3 too, where you walk in on a crazy doctor who is, doing an operation on a living guy and demonstrating how to do malpractice to a bunch of undead nurses. It's all these games like just using that little horrific part of like actual history. Can I fix how awkward this part looks? I might just have to redraw this one. I will definitely say that history is not my strongest subject. I am especially the memorizing part of history. So like, don't ask me about dates. Don't ask me about locations. Don't ask me about generals. Like people's names or anything like that. I'm awful with anything that requires memorization in that way. I like learning more about like history from a more like anthropology kind of direction, but also then like that's kind of a funny way to say it, because like technically a lot of history is anthropology because it has to do with people. I like certain things in history. Like I'm not really good with certain periods of history. I would say that I know random broad general history things, and I'm not so good on the specifics. I like games that are historical fiction. I'll say that. And I do like other fiction that is set in historical times, like Vinland Saga. I really like Vinland Saga. And I like all the Assassin's Creed games because they explore kind of these historical locations, these historical time periods and these historical events, but through a fictional lens. I've got one of the only, I don't know if it's a true manga or not, but one of the only hard copy series that I keep up with, that I buy copies of every time a new one comes out, and a new one only comes out like every 1 to 2 years because it's just a single author artist. Like they're both the author and the artist working on it traditionally all by themselves. So they only get one book out every now and then. It is set, I think it's the 1700s. I want to say it's the 1700s. I'm not entirely sure. I think it is. Along the Silk Road. And it is very, very interesting. And of course, it's all traditionally inked and everything like that, and beautiful. And there's a lot of really well-drawn horses in it, so I can appreciate that, because Webtoon sure has some awfully drawn horses, or not drawn horses. They just use 3D models and just slap them in there. Yeah, well, it's interesting because, like, I hated art history, but design history was different because, like, how my professor for design history kind of taught it was more talking about, like, history from broader scope. So instead of being like, okay, we're gonna talk about this piece of artwork, this is the person who made it, and this is the date that has made it, and that's all the information that you're ever going to get tested on, so you have to memorize it. How my design history course was taught in movements. So we learned about Rococo and Baroque and like Art Deco and Art Nouveau as movements, as time periods, and we looked at how art shifted functionally through these different time periods, depending on what the context of what was going on in the rest of the world was. And that to me was way, way more interesting than being like, oh yeah, this is a sculpture by this artist, you know, like from this date. And that's what you're going to get tested on. So I like it when educators kind of tell stories with their history. I feel that I retain it better when there's a story. I can't just do dates and names. It just, like, that doesn't, it goes in 1 year and it'll stick there long enough for the test, and then once the test is over, it's gone. But if there's a story related to it, I'm way more likely to remember it. And that just goes for anything for me, is if it's got some sort of application. Rather than just straight memorization, it's going to be better for me. Math's the same way. Science is the same way. I got really embarrassed the other day because, like, I mixed up some scientific terms that I should know given my background, and I got them flipped in my head, and I was trying to explain it to little kids. And then one of the other educators was like, you know, you have it backwards, right? And I was like, crap. You're right, I have it backwards. But I hadn't used it in a hot while, and then all of a sudden I had to use it. So, yeah, no, my memory is sometimes garbage about certain things. And then I'll remember other things, like, perfectly. Like, every now and then I'll have flashbacks to, like, kids at school from, like, grade school that I remember having beefs with, and they were very one-sided beefs on my end, probably. It's interesting reflecting on myself as a child, as an adult now, because I'm like, huh. I certainly was a type of child. But like, I remember those kids' names, like their full names, first, last names. And I'm like, that is such a waste of my brain cells. I do not need to remember their first and last names when there are other people that I interact with, like on a daily basis, that I can't remember the names of. It's so stupid. Court had to get after me the other day, cause I have a really hard time remembering her phone number, and it's like, for safety reasons, I should memorize her phone number, and I just haven't for the longest time. I've got it now. I got it now, but I had to put in some actual like effort to memorize it, even though we've lived together for years. You know, spite's a powerful thing. Like, I don't remember. Well, I guess I remember some of the names of people I was friends with, but like a lot of the names from grade school that I remember are of kids at the time I probably would have described as like having been bullies to me. But now that I'm an adult, I still wouldn't describe them as like, they weren't, like, bullies is too strong of a word. They weren't bullies. They were just kids that I didn't get along with. And I understand why they probably did not get along with me. Like, it wasn't, you know, necessarily, all their fault when I reflect on, you know, like, the kind of child that I was growing up. Yeah, like, and I'm sure there's been studies about this. Is like, what are you more likely to remember? Good things that happen to you versus bad things that happen to you. Like, obviously, if something's so bad that it's traumatic that you repress that memory, like, you're not going to remember it. But, you know, like, we're very, very good at remembering the bad things that happen to us. And I think part of that comes into, you know, like, survival mode, you know, like learning from bad experiences so you don't have those experiences again, so your brain is more wired to remember those bad things, because it's like, oh, you don't want to have that happen again, right? So you got to remember that it happened so you don't have it happen again, even if, like, that, obviously, like, remembering someone's name that you didn't, of someone you didn't like, you know, like, like, it's not that important for your survival, but especially when, you know, like, you're like me, where you now live in a completely different country from where you grew up. Yeah, you can say that. That's fine. Thank you, Automod. Remember every instance of a mechanic that you messed up in Final Fantasy. Group content. Feel your external performance anxiety. Ugh, man. So in my first 2 episodes of my Animal Well playthrough, I had my audio channels set up all wrong, and I heavily considered like restarting once I fixed it. And then I was like, nope, the whole point of choosing to play Animal Well first was so that I could make these mistakes and then fix them, but not, like try to make the playthrough perfect. It was very much a like move on, keep going, because like this is just for practice. So the first two episodes have got like some of the audio settings are like all over the place. But I'm not going back and I'm not starting the game over again, because like you just need to keep going. Even if there's mistakes in something, you just need to keep going. And not let that, anxiety of it, like, oh, people are gonna see that, like that I made a mistake or blah, blah, blah. Like, people aren't gonna care. It's fine. It's not a big deal. That said, though, I'm glad I tested it with Animal Well, rather than a game that had dialogue in it, because that would have been worse. Like if I want to go and play through all the Assassin's Creed games in order of release, and well, at least up to Mirage. I don't think I'm gonna play. I guess Mirage came after Valhalla, but I'm not gonna play Valhalla. Unless I change my mind. I might change my mind. I don't know. But that would require buying another copy of it, and I don't really want to do that. But yeah, I wanna go back and play those games. And kind of talk about the series, because I have a lot of thoughts about the series, and I've expressed a lot of those thoughts to my wife, and she's like, why aren't you recording this? And I'm like, good question. Good question. Your stream's microphone audio was complete garbage for a whole year because no one was telling me how bad it was. To be fair, though, I wasn't really checking my VODs either. Yeah, well, and that's the other thing, is I don't want to keep going back and nitpicking either, because it's like it'll get better over time anyway. And right now it doesn't matter too much, because like right now this is just an extra thing that we're doing to build community, and like test things out and see like, oh, do we want to do this more seriously? If it ever turns into something that's more serious, like right now it's mostly just for fun. And for me, it's a lot of figuring out how I can kind of get over my anxiety about streaming art, or streaming in general, because I can I'm not a particularly social person. Like I am definitely an introvert. Bit loud when you first came in. Yeah. I was looking at the levels and I was like, my music looked a little bit loud, because I was just comparing it to like where the levels were for the snowball, which is the mic I'm using. There's a bunch of things I want to learn how to do. I'm learning Python so that I can hopefully do some neat stuff with streaming at some point, but not yet. But yeah, like, so I've got this like weird public mask, and it's not totally weird. I know lots of people can do this, but like I'm a pretty introverted person, and I can turn on being like really, really social. It drains a lot of my energy though. And it's not something that I turn on all the time when I'm around other people. Like I'm really good at turning it on or putting on the mask, per se, like my public facing mask, when I'm at work. And really like with streaming and everything like that, I was like, oh, well, I just don't have the personality for it. It's so hard, like I can't talk to myself, and keep things entertaining and everything like that on my own. And it's interesting because like if I can either have not necessarily a script, but like talking points, like I can talk to myself and do that kind of stuff and explain it, and then we have clips, and then like everything's good. Or if there's 1 or 2 people in the chat, obviously interacting with people in the chat, but learning how to turn that on when I don't have people's faces in front of me is like my biggest thing right now, because I can do it when I'm in front of people, but it's really, really hard for me to do when I can't see people's faces. And that's why I have crazy stage fright, because when you're on a stage, you've got these big, giant, blinding lights in front of your face, and you can't actually see the audience. You know they're there. You know in your head they're there, but you can't see their expressions. And I feed so much off of people's expressions when I am in that kind of performance mode, because that's how I gauge if I'm talking too much, or if people understand what I'm saying, or if I'm talking too fast. I definitely talk too fast sometimes. So kind of figuring out how to give myself those cues when I'm interacting with a chat, or like just recording without necessarily having an audience. That's something that I need more practice on, just to get that confidence and just get over the anxiety of it. Because I can do it. I know I can do it. I do it for work in front of children of different age groups and also adults. Like, I'm not antisocial necessarily. I'm just introverted. Like, I socializing with people's draining for me instead of energy giving, right? But at the same time, I still feed off of like the energy around me too. So I don't know. It's weird. It's interesting. Would I ever consider Python code streaming? Yes, I'm thinking about doing it. We've got a game jam that we are going to be working on in the summer, and I am going to be doing coding for it. And luckily with this game jam, we are allowed to, like, there's no limitations necessarily on the coding side of things. So there's a bunch of things that I need to learn how to do. And I'm going to be not necessarily doing it in using Python, but I'm going to be learning GD script for it. So I'm thinking of streaming some of that GD script stuff. Because right now, how I'm learning Python is with a Udemy course, and I can't stream the Udemy course because I'm pretty sure that goes against their TOS. Like, I'm pretty sure that'll get me like copyright struck. So I won't stream that because that's a paid course. But I definitely want to do some game dev streaming of like figuring out how to get all the visual novel stuff working in Godot, which is the game engine. And some of that will be related to what I learn with Python, even if I'm not using Python, because GDScript and Python they're similar in structure, but they're not similar in logic. So there's going to be some stuff that's transferable and some stuff that isn't. Thank you. I appreciate the encouragement. Yeah, like, it's practice, right? And the more you do it, the less you'll have anxiety. Yeah, well, I mean, if you need permission from us for the work that you're doing for our game jam, you're more than welcome to stream that. Like, that's totally fine. But I know we've only got you doing like one track. But you're in another one. You're in another game jam, right? You're in the other one. What is it called? The one that's happening soon or it's already happened. I can't remember which one it was. But yeah, just ask the group and I'll be good. But I'm pretty sure with ours, like, you're more than welcome to stream your composition development work once we're allowed to actually work on stuff for that for that jam. This is a good example of my silly, stupid memory. Is I'm talking about this jam and it's like, oh, you know about it. You're in it. Oh, okay. I thought you'd mentioned I don't know. There's so many people that we've done work with, and now I'm like questioning, like, is it a different composer that we worked with previously that was talking about this other jam? I can't remember. I'm really excited about only one of any asset jam. I think it's gonna be whoop. I did not mean to minimize that. I did it last year, and I was the background artist on it. And I really enjoyed it because it's short. And helps you keep the scope down. So I'm really excited to see what people are able to do, because even though it's a short one, like it's only 10 days long, I feel that when people are only working on like one thing instead of multiple things in a really complex game, like they put more effort into the one thing and you get like really high quality of that one thing. Well, now I'm curious as to who it was who was doing that other jam, but it's fine. Like I said, I have a goldfish memory. But yeah, this is a really good entry jam because it's short, because it is limited scope, and it is run by the Dev Talk community, which is pretty healthy right now. Because like one of the problems that we're kind of seeing is some of these game jams are kind of atrophying. Like there was a good chance that there wasn't going to be a Ludum Dare, which is a very big game jam, not a visual novel game jam, but it is one of the more well-known general indie game jams. And at one point they were talking about it not happening this year. I think it did happen this year, but like a lot of these jams are only run by like a single dude. So if that single dude no longer wants to run the thing anymore, it kind of goes away. And that's kind of what happened with NaNoWriMo, which is unfortunate, but that jam also had quite a bit of controversy surrounding it, which I'm not totally privy to. There were just things happening apparently that didn't help. But I find that the Dev Talk community is pretty comparatively stable from what I've seen. And they constantly have people joining. It doesn't mean they're all like active or actually doing anything, but I don't know, like compared to some other creative communities, like right now is an awful time to be an artist on TikTok, because everyone is just being absolute trash on TikTok. Not that it was ever like great to be an artist on TikTok, but there's a lot of bullying, there's a lot of like really nasty behavior that's happening over there right now, because these things come in trend waves. And the dev talk community, I'm sure there's some toxicity somewhere in there, but I've never run into it. So as far as I'm aware, it's generally pretty positive. Yeah, I love your PNG avatar. I had made a PNG tuber, and I had got it kind of working at one point, and then I did not like it anymore. So I'd like to make a new one. Right now I've got my little animated Zarius in the corner, so he's kind of acting as my placeholder. I do want to make like I don't know, like I've seen a couple people have the pixel art PNG avatars and I really, really like them. So I might make like a pixel art one that's kind of similar to the emoji that we have in the Discord. That's the me stand-in for the dog "This is fine" fire meme. Like I really love that little thing that Court made, and I'm like, it'd be really funny to use that as kind of the basis for a PNG tuber. My problem is I need to figure out what are you using to make your little guy move? Cause like I have got PNG Tuber Plus on Steam, which I was using, but I found that I could never get the sensitivity to work the way that I wanted it to work as far as activating the animations. I probably could Python code it, honestly. That probably wouldn't be too hard to figure out how to Python code it. One of the problems with me art streaming and talking at the same time is that I talk with my hands. So every time I talk, I stop drawing. Yeah, that'd be fine if you want to DM it to me on Discord. Yeah, well, and the Dev Talk community is pretty big, but like we've met quite a few different people through it, and most people have their own little side servers and everything like that. So it's kind of a really good launch pad for finding like smaller groups that aren't as intimidating. Because like I used to be more active in Dev Talk, but now I'm just active in all of the discords of all the different people that I've met through it instead. And even then I'm not active enough in some discords. Like I need to be more active in ours, because that's kind of the point of having a community discord for Border Breakers, is like the appeal is you get to interact with the Border Breakers team, and it's like, oh, I guess I need to interact more. I need to convince some friendos to play like Pico Park with me or something like that, so that we can stream that. I think it would be a really fun game, Nin, to play with like you and Devadio. Then we can all hate each other afterwards. I don't think Pico Park destroys friendships the same way that that Mario Party does, but we could work our way up to Mario Party. I don't know. Our friendships have survived Boomerang Foo, so we're probably okay. Thanks for sending that to me. Oh yeah, so it's got pretty much the same the same setup. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is about, and it might just be that I haven't got my audio settings set up in a way that PNG Tuber Plus likes it. That might just be some calibration issues. So, I'll figure it out eventually. But yeah, I need to figure out what the avatar is gonna be, because it could be totally like the drawing of me in my hat, just a cartoon version of myself, or I could make a bigger Pixel Zarius, or which the little Pixel Zarius that I have right here originally was done by Nin, and then I animated him. So Nin gets all the credit for the little tiny Pixel Zarius in the corner. My other thought is I could make like an animal avatar, kind of like how you've got the fish. It could be my hand with eyes, like a sock puppet without the sock. That would be really funny. That would be super, super funny, actually. I might do that. Oh, like, because that'd be really easy. I could just Photoshop it, take a picture of my own hand, Photoshop some googly eyes on it. Oh, that would be so funny. I might do that. I don't know if I'd do that as like my permanent one, but that would be a pretty funny one to at least start with, and pretty like easy to put together. I was also thinking about making like an udon one. So like take a picture of our snake, and if I could get a picture of him yawning, then I could, you know, like turn that into the open mouth, closed mouth. But that would require me having very good timing. Because he does not stick his head out that often. He is a very shy snake. Okay, well, I think I at least got the character inks done for the single panel. Oh my gosh. I am not moving particularly fast today. That is okay. Well, speaking of talking with my hands, one of the other courses that I've got on Udemy that I want to work on is, yeah, slow days happen. At least it's happening at all, because I haven't streamed, like, a drawing stream for, like, 2 weeks now, and it's like, oh, yeah, I need to get back into it, because I've already fallen out of habit. But, yeah, on Udemy, I've got Court ended up buying a bunch of courses, and one of the courses she ended up buying was American Sign Language. And I've really wanted to learn sign language because a couple of my characters use it in various settings, and I'm like, I think it would be really good for me to learn how this actually works so that I can describe it better and represent it better. So I do, once I'm done learning Python, like once I'm done with my Udemy Python course, maybe I'll switch to the sign language one for a bit, and then I can figure out how to do sign language streams. I've got a web camera. I just do not like showing my actual face on stream, which is why I need to get the PNG tuber set up. But that'd be also an interesting coding adventure, would be like figure out how to make your PNG tuber also be able to use sign language. That would be really cool. That'd be really hard, I think, because I'd have to figure out how to do hand tracking, and there'd be so many different poses for all the different gestures. But that could be really cool. That sounds like a maybe when I have a budget to get someone to help me kind of kind of project. Yeah, well, and that's why I'm like Court shows her face in some of her streams, and I'm like, I don't want to. I really don't want to. But I would be totally fine having a PNG tuber or like a VTuber. Like, that's fine. I don't mind it, like, motion tracking and stuff like that. Okay, that hand is really goofy looking, but I'm gonna leave it because we just need to keep going. I was supposed to have all these pages done like a month ago. Court's like, we should go get more stickers printed. And I'm like, we have 4 days until our first con. We are not getting them printed before this first con. I'm sorry. We should have done this like a month ago if you wanted to have all these other things printed. Okay, how broken does this joint look? It looks pretty broken to me. It's fine. It's well, Am I gonna redraw this hand? I feel like I'm gonna redraw this hand. Yeah, I am. It's gonna bug me otherwise. Your cart compilation is challenging so far. I like, admittedly, I know not anything about composing or writing music, so I will take your word for it 100%. I totally, like, believe you that it's challenging, because, like, even watching some of your streams and watching you work with the musical Legos, I'm like, I like the visual aid, but I still don't understand what's going on, even with the visual aid. So yeah, if it's challenging, like, I imagine that it's like rocket science for me to look at it. And will you please use an actual? Why am I on the eraser right now? That's why it keeps erasing things. I'm like, why am I on the eraser tool? Look, I can't even figure out my own tools sometimes. So trying to figure out someone else's tools in something that I have no experience in is yeah. What you're doing with the composing might as well be rocket science to me. I find your streams really entertaining though, because like you, at least the stream that I watched, which I need to keep an eye out for when you go live more often. But when you were working on the bidet one, which it's so silly. It was really fun to watch because like your process was interesting, and I know you talk about how like your Saint Coelacanth stuff is you know, more experimental and kind of all over the place, but it's really entertaining to watch you experiment and see that process from more of almost like a stream of consciousness approach, and then like see how those songs evolve Like they go from like being, there were some parts that were like really dissonant, and then, you know, like 10 minutes later, all of a sudden they come so much clearer, and like they're all bops, and it's just great. And then you chime in with like, I'm gonna name it this, and it's always hilarious. So I find it really entertaining. Cause like I'm not a music theory person either. Like I used to be able to read sheet music. I can't read sheet music anymore. But I took piano, and I was in band in school, because that was like I don't know why, but I was required by my parents to be in band up until I think I finally convinced them in grade 12 to let me drop band, because I wanted to be in art more than I wanted to be in band, and I couldn't be in both or something like that. Okay, that hand is better. That's a better hand. It's still not great, but it's better than it was. But yeah, so like I used to at least know how to play musical instruments. I wouldn't say that I played them well. I definitely did not have a passion for music, and even now, like, people constantly ask me, like, what kind of music do you listen to? And I'm like, I don't listen to music, I listen to podcasts and YouTube drama. As embarrassing as that is. Yeah, I'm not really a person that listens to a lot of music, which also makes it a little hard for me to stream, because I'm like, oh, I gotta have some music in my streams, but I don't want to listen to the music while I stream. I wanna listen to this 5-hour video that's talking about this court case. And I'm like, well, I can't have that playing in the background, so I had to I kind of need to play around with some of my sound settings. So like right now I'm got a different video in the background that you guys can't hear, but you're hearing this music that is by this guy who has a complete discography that he says that streamers can use and not have it get claimed. Although I have had some of his tracks end up getting pulled out by like auto detected or whatever by Steam, not Steam, by Twitch, which is really annoying, because it's like, well, I paid $60 for the discography that gives me also permissions to use it while streaming. So I'm like, Twitch, please. Yeah, no, I think some people just, you know, like, their brain is wired in a way where certain things they just jive with better than others, and like clearly like you jive better with music than I do. And that's not a bad thing, you know. It's nice for everybody having different things that they jive really well with. I mean, that's why we've got Nin working on colors for our comic, is because she jives better with color than either me or Court do. Yeah, I gotta go revive my Spotify account. I know I have one, so that I can put some of your music in the streams too, because like I'm more than happy to, if you're okay with us using your music in our streams just as background music, more than happy to give you some some promotion in return. I know getting paid in exposure is not not a fun time, but I don't think any of us are making too much money on streaming just yet. Yeah, well, it's tricky. You gotta kind of start somewhere. Like, part of the reason why I got into Dev Talks was because I was like, I need to diversify my portfolio and I need to force myself to work on backgrounds, but I want those backgrounds to like be in projects and be meaningful. So I was like, okay, like I'm gonna go and practice backgrounds by joining a bunch of game jams and doing a bunch of basically volunteer background work for all these games that have no budgets, that aren't paying anybody, everyone's volunteers. And it's like, well, now I've got, 10 plus games in my portfolio that like in the span of a year. Which is helpful for proving to other people like, hey, I can do this work. Do you want to pay me for it? Like, it's a weird trade-off of, like, it's hard to get yourself out there and ask for money for your stuff right off the bat before you've proven that, like, it's worth being paid for. And especially, like, with the economy going the direction that it's going, it's like people are going to be more careful and more careful with their spending. So you really, really, really need to maintain people's trust and have a good relationship or a good reputation. Otherwise, people are going to just be like, well, why would I spend money on that? Like, that's a waste. It's not worth it. I can get it cheaper somewhere else. God, this hand is so ginormous, but that's okay. I'm gonna ignore that. It's fine. It's a single panel. It does not matter. This has been the hardest thing with coming back, because like you can see some of these panels have like really clean sketches. These aren't sketches. These were the original inks from 2019. Is when we worked on some of these pages, and now we're coming back to it, and rearranging panels and changing how some things are presented, and how the story is kind of told, as we kind of move forward, and like our skills have gotten better, but how we want to approach the story has kind of changed a little bit, and so, like, back in 2019, I was pretty anal about inking. Versus now, like, one, I'm better at it, and I can fix things easier and faster, even though I'm going very slow today. But the other thing is, like, I don't care as much if there are mistakes in it, which is good. Because we just need to go, and we are not redrawing these again. Like, the 2025 version of Chapter 1 is going to be the only version of Chapter 1. We are not doing it again for, another time. Like, this is going to be the version that ends up printed if we ever go to print. It's hard hunting down commissions. I definitely want to push commissions more at our conventions this year. That's kind of my main goal, is push commissions as much as possible, because that's where we made the most money last year, was in commissions. And like, we still don't have, like, we have some acrylic charms, but we don't have any like big ticket items. We're hopefully gonna get some shirts and some blankets, and maybe some other bigger merch. But with the uncertainty of being able to get stuff from overseas now, like, a lot of that's up in the air. So I definitely want to push commissions more. We're also going to be doing a lot of panels this year, which is great marketing for us because, again, we can push commissions more, and hopefully get more sales. Like, I really would love to sell out of some of the stuff that's old that we have that is from back during, like, 2019 when we printed some of this stuff for like a couple conventions we did back then. I want to get down to where we feel the pressure to make new stuff because we don't have any old stuff that's still holding us down. How many chapters are there? That is a great question that I cannot answer. So let's see. I think we have up to chapter 4, like, scripted for comic book interpretation. Like, this is kind of the problem. We have been writing this story since 2008. Actually, correction. We as a partner, like me and Court as a unit have been writing this comic since 2008. Court has been writing this comic since before then. I don't know when she first started on it. It is way different than when she first started on it. But like this is our magnum opus of sorts. This is our Odyssey. It is a very, very, very big, huge project. And we have been told multiple times, do not start with your magnum opus, and we have ignored that advice year after year after year after year, and we're still ignoring it, because this is what brings us joy, and we don't want to work on anything else. Except we also are now technically working on other things because we are working on games, but that is different. So, how long Generation 1, because this is Generation 1 that we're working on right now. How many chapters is Generation 1 going to be? I have no idea. And then, having said Generation 1, a question you might have is like, well, how many generations are there? Technically 3, although Generation 3 is technically split into 2. And we also have, like, some shorter stories that are, like, set in the past. So there's a lot. We have a lot of content that we have written because we've been writing this thing for a hot while. All 3 generations have beginning, middles, and ends, at least, so we know where they all go. Generation 3 is being re-scripted because we were definitely stream of consciousness writing it when we wrote it the first time. And there's a lot of problems with it, and we've learned a lot, and there's a lot of things that we want to change because we're no longer edgy teenagers. And there's some content in there that we do not want to see the light of day. Because we're just not edgy teenagers anymore. But yeah, like, oh, geez. I don't know. I'm currently in the process of cleaning up Generation 1. So I am going through and kind of looking at our scripts and trying to condense them in ways that aren't gonna make my partner mad at me, because I am very, very good at cutting out characters that I think are unnecessary, and sometimes those are characters that Courtney really likes. And then she's upset because she's like, I'd really like that character and like I'd want to keep them. And I'm like, but they don't do anything. So sometimes we have some back and forth over, you know, like, okay, like what are we gonna do? We have some characters that we cut because Generation 1, this isn't the first time we've rewritten it either. And we definitely cut out a lot of characters the second time we rewrote it. But now we're kind of like, geez, some of those characters were really cool. Maybe we put them back in, but kind of like change how they were presented or change what their purpose is or give them a purpose or anything like that. But yeah, like I think that the tricky thing that we're going to have to figure out is like, are we going to be able to get all of these stories told in some form or fashion before we're dead? Like everything's gotta be out in the world before we die of old age. It's basically the goal. Is it gonna happen? I have no idea. We absolutely could, but then that's something else we have to write. We need less things that we're writing is the problem. It's also definitely interesting because, you know, like, okay, we're in our 30s, early 30s, but we're still in our 30s. And, you know, like, when we can, we try to encourage, you know, people to work on the projects that they love when they're young and they have time, and maybe when they're still in school and they're not, you know, like, having to have a job or pay taxes, you know, because like that's the number one thing that you kind of don't realize you're not going to have as much as when you get out of school is time, and these things take a lot of time. So like we've definitely had some years where we felt really guilty about not working on our comic. Because we definitely didn't work on it for a lot of time in between 2019 and now. And we held a lot of guilt about not working on it because it felt like a waste. But we've kind of like, on reflecting on that feeling, have also realized, well, in that time, what have we done? We finished our degrees. We saved up money. We got to go to Japan. We got to travel. And, you know, got to do a bunch of other hobbies that we really enjoy and, you know, make good friends and stuff like that. And it's like, none of that is wasted time. Like, yeah, we weren't working on our magnum opus, but it's like the way that our life was during those years just better facilitated these other life experiences that are absolutely not wastes. And some of the activities that we were doing, you know, even though they were just hobbies for fun, have made us better artists, have made us better writers. And if we had just been focusing on the comic the entire time, like, the comic wouldn't be as good. So, like, now we kind of look at, like, where we are right now, and we're like, we feel good about moving forward with this comic now because we've had all these experiences, because we've kind of like gotten over the guilt and gotten over, you know, like the perfectionism and the wanting to start over again and not having the confidence to move forward with it. Like, that was all stuff that took time, and we're only now at a point where we feel like we're ready to go forward with it as best as we can. And like, are we still hitting roadblocks every now and then? Absolutely, because life likes to throw all sorts of random stuff at us that we can't predict, and, you know, it's gonna impact our ability to work on things. But like, we're not as like stressed about it or hung up about it. And about like the time that it took to get here to this point. Like, I don't know. It's interesting. It's so hard. It's so hard. Especially like if you've got something you got your heart set on and it doesn't turn out as good as you were hoping or expecting. Like, that's so hard. And letting go and being okay with letting go and not taking it as a personal like failure. It is such a hard thing to learn, and it is a practice skill. Like, you need to constantly be practicing. It is not something that, you know, you can just turn on, turn off. But yeah, like it's hard. It's hard to go easy on yourself as a creative, especially in the today times, because it feels like everything is, you know, like the technology and tools that are supposed to help us, you know, make our lives easier so that we can, you know, spend more time working on our art. Well, oh, now we've got tools that are taking, you know, our ability to make a living off of art away. And it's hard because we've got no way to fight back, really. It's all the power to fight back against some of the things that are happening is in the hands of people who aren't artists, who aren't in these industries, who don't understand, right? So it can be incredibly discouraging and frustrating. And art, you know, like music, theater, drawing, painting, sculpting, fucking architecture, like all of these things are like under the amount of effort and training and the value of that in order to do it well is so underpriced, you know, and underappreciated. Like, no one is paid what that experience in order to make that good and make it well and do it in a certain amount of time. Like, none of that is equivalent to, you know, like the effort that actually goes into it. Yeah, well, it's nice that you got something that you can experiment with. Because I feel like the experimentation probably helps you learn a little bit more than, like, the more traditional, like, contemporary, serious kind of stuff. Just because, like, you can kind of go out of the box more and find surprising ways to do things that you might not even try with your more serious stuff. So you're definitely going to have, like, gain new knowledge from that. And it's awesome that that new knowledge is giving you the confidence to be like, oh yeah, I'm almost ready to work on what I'm assuming is like one of your dream tracks or dream compilations or dream albums or whatever this Lady Disrepair is. Yeah. I think that's the other thing is, you know, a lot of us artists, you know, while it would be fantastic to make a living off of our art and so that we can just focus on doing our art, a lot of doing it and making it is not really about the money. Like, the money is secondary to getting the thing out there. which can be really dangerous for some people. Obviously, like you always hear about the manga artists who, you know, they're so passionate and they're so driven, and the industry is so unfair to them that they literally work to death, you know, because they're like they can't be paid a living wage, and their working conditions are so bad, and the expectations are so unreasonable, you know, but they still do it because, like, in their brains it's not the money. Like, if they wanted to make more money, they would not be working on manga, you know, or they wouldn't be animating anime, or, you know, like anything like that. Like, it's kind of crazy how, you know, that passion is so undervalued and under-respected, even though it is something that people literally throw their lives away for. And not like throw their lives away for, saying, like, again, not implying that it's wasted, but, you know, like, they put their health in jeopardy for their art, right? And it's unfortunate that, you know, like, it has to get to that extent. Like, people should be able to make art and not have to do that. Like, that is the passion is commendable, but the fact that, you know, like, the outcome is someone loses their life is, you know, that is a failure of society and of these industries to protect these people with the passion, who clearly want to work even if it's not paying them what they are worth. You know, like, everyone's like, oh, this generation or that generation, you know, like, and these people don't want to work. They don't want to work. And it's like, people want to work. People do want to work. It's just, you know, like, they want to, they either can't do the work that they're passionate about because they can't afford it, or, you know, like, that work is going to kill them if they try to do it, you know, like, I don't believe the whole thing of, like, people being lazy. Like, yeah, are there people who are lazy? Absolutely. But lots of people get bored in retirement and are coming out of retirement to do jobs and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, so the people aren't bored. It's just these industries are predatory and awful. It is interesting. It is interesting challenges, and I like to believe that everyone's got something that, you know, like, they're incredibly passionate about, and again, if it paid them a living wage, or they had the opportunity to make a living out of it, they would. It's just not everybody has those opportunities, or, you know, like, stuff like that. And of course, there's going to be people who argue that some of the things that are happening right now with technology are giving people the opportunities, and it's like, well, it's a slippery slope, because there's lots of people who are not passionate, who are using these things to make money with when they don't have the passion and they don't have the skills, and they haven't put the time in, you know. And it's a little unfair that, okay, you got people who aren't passionate, who don't want to put in the time, who just want to press an easy button, who can make money off of it, when there's other people who are undiscovered, unrepresented, and will never have their art see the light of day or ever be recognized. Yeah, I imagine that is kind kind of complicated. Like that's an additional level of complexity to navigate. And like my situation where like, okay, I've got a part-time job that has a very varied schedule. So I don't have a consistent schedule. And then I also am self-employed. I'm a contractor, so I set my own hours and everything like that. And there's a lot of benefits to my working situation, as far as also being able to do creative things on the side. But at the same time, it's like I don't have, you know, like a 401k. I don't have health insurance through my employment. I don't get paid time off. Like there's a lot of trade-offs there, you know, a lot of things that are really nice to have because they make you feel more stable. And if something crazy happens and I lose my part-time job or I can't do contract work anymore, you know, like there's not as much of a safety net there. Which, like, even if you had a full-time job with benefits and everything like that, if you suddenly lost your full-time job, like, okay, your safety net's gone too. Like, there's trade-offs to every scenario and everything like that, and it's hard to navigate. And then, of course, like, we can't control what the economy does, and when the economy decides to vomit all over itself, we just have to live with it. Okay, I have gotten all the characters inked on this page. It only took 2 hours, which is not good. So, well, except I think there's supposed to be characters here. I just need to figure out how do I get to them. Because they're not in these panels, which means they are somewhere else. And I don't know where they are. They're on one of these layers, and I'm not entirely sure which one they're on. Okay, not that one. Not that one. Ah, they're there! My line work is really good today. My line work is really slow today. It's fine. It's fine. Oh man, there's 5 characters in this panel. Okay, I still have a lot of characters to ink apparently. Let's put this one down here. It's fine. It's fine. I knew this page had more work to be done on it and I just forgot. I was gonna feed Udon today. That's not happening today. I'm gonna feed him tomorrow. Hopefully he doesn't refuse his rat this time. No, you're good. We've been talking about interesting stuff. I almost wasn't gonna stream at all today, so any progress is good progress. I do want to see. My problem with OBS is it does not tell me how many people are watching right now. So I have to open this up over here to see how many of you are actually in here. Oh, it might just be you. It looks like Nin went to sleep. That's okay. At least this panel should be quick to ink because Court did a good job at giving me pretty clean sketch to work with. Sometimes she gives me very dirty sketches and it takes me a lot longer because I have to be like, what is this line for? What character is this? I don't know what I'm looking at. Oh my gosh, his shoulders are going to be way too wide. Well, okay. Have you considered the power of the kalimba? The kalimba saved us last time. The kalimba can do it again. I still need to figure out which panel I'm going to put the kalimba in the comic. I kind of want to put it in not in these pages, but I think in the next chapter there's an office I can put the kalimba in. You don't want to lose all your kalimba points? Okay. What's comparable to a synth that you could put in that is really silly? Oh yeah, it's I'm gonna put it in there. I just need to figure out where I'm gonna put it. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna put it in this character, this blue character. I'm gonna put it in his office because I think that'd be a really funny place to put it. And then I'm thinking there's a scene that happens way later chapters. Where another character is kind of like invaded his office and has just moved things around in it. And I think it would be really funny if they stole the kalimba and were just like playing with it absent-mindedly. Because that character absolutely would do that. It's right in character with them. A harmonium? Yeah, maybe harmonium. Can you make a harmony with a harmonium? I would hope so. Otherwise, that is false advertising on the name. Oh, how am I going to handle this? Because the problem is, this panel goes all the way down here, and I don't actually want to fill it all with color. So I think what we probably need to do is we probably need to have his shoulder kind of end here, and then like that, and that'll be it. Like something like that. It's awkward, and it'll be fine because we're not gonna mess with this longer than we already have. My other thought is harmonica, but just because it sounds similar to harmonium. But I don't know if that's going to be good for instead of like a synth or something related to a synth. I don't know. You might be able to figure out something cool to do with a harmonica. Oh, yeah. See, you can use synth filters on a harmonica. Yeah. See, I know what I'm talking about. I have to, like, look up more crazy, weird instruments so that I can give you better suggestions. Okay, do we care which arm? Ugh, I'm supposed to remember which arm this character likes to cross because apparently it's supposed to be consistent and I don't remember because I have to fix it in some other panels. I'll figure that out later. We'll not do that right now. All the perspective on these characters is wonky. Ultra dense with competing melodies. I think that like considering the idea of like a neutron star and then talking about like making it ultra dense is kind of funny. I'm pretty like aren't neutron stars pretty dense? Or are they not dense? Am I now we're revealing if I know anything about that area of science. God, I love this character. She's so fun to draw. Also because she's easy to draw. A teaspoon of neutronium weighs more than an aircraft carrier. Oh my gosh. Well, that's definitely more than our baby rhino at the zoo. The baby rhino at the zoo, I think they said the last weigh-in for it was like 1,400 pounds. She's not even 2 yet. She already weighs that much. She's a big girl. I've decapitated her. Oh no! You haven't been to a zoo since 2019. Yeah, well, I hadn't been to a zoo for quite a while. But I didn't even know that there was a zoo around here for a while. I knew there was an aquarium, because the aquarium's pretty well known. But then, yeah, I found out that there was a zoo here, and in my never-ending attempts to get a US-based job, I just ended up applying for basically any position I could get at either the aquarium at the zoo, and I finally managed to get an interview with the zoo, and it went really well. So now I'm with the zoo, and I'm not complaining about it at all, because I actually like the zoo a lot. And I think it's got an amazing work culture. It's a lot more welcoming than the aquarium, because I volunteer at the aquarium. And it's not to say that it's like not like a welcoming place. It's just, it's got a different feel to it. Like, it's a little bit more corporate, which is interesting. But yeah, no, the zoo's super awesome. And we got some new ferrets. So we got some fuzzy slinkies, and I'm super excited to get trained on how to handle them, because they're part of our education programs. And they've got great names. They're got Portobello, Porcini, and Gnocchi. They are so cute. They kind of like behave like cats in a lot of the ways. And of course these are domestic ferrets. So, you know, like they're not as domesticated as like cats or dogs are. But I think they're probably comparable to like some types of rabbits, not all types of rabbits, because some types of rabbits are very domesticated. How do I deal with this while I am over here? Let me see. Sorry, I'm just figuring out how to do a thing. Yeah, sorry. I'm trying to figure out how to access my mod settings using OBS instead of having to open up the thing. I guess I have to open up the stream. Hold on. Do that instead. I don't often get bots, but every now and then I do. Let me... Go. There we go. But yeah, ferrets, back on topic now that we dealt with that. Very much like cats. Except because they are weasels, they have got scent glands, which they use quite a bit. So they can be very, very smelly. And because they are also related to weasels, they can be a little nippy, or you know, like they got sharp little claws, they got sharp little teeth. And if left to their own devices, you know, like they can get bored and they can chew on things the same way that like puppies can and everything like that. But you can litter box train them. They can be really good companions. They can live together socially pretty well. I definitely like... It's always interesting when we've got animals at the zoo that we use for our education programs that are more domesticated, or animals that are very easy to find in the pet trade, because we've also got animals that, you know, are wild animals where if they're, you know, found in the pet trade, they're either there illegally or they are not appropriate to be pets for the vast majority of the populace. So it's always interesting kind of navigating, having these conversations, especially with the kiddos, of like, hey, you're at the zoo, but we're showing you a domesticated animal. But also, you know, like, just because you can find these animals at pet stores does not mean that they make good pets. You know, like, so it's always an interesting conversation. So like one of our ambassador animals that we have is domesticated chickens. And one of the questions we get all the time is like, why do we bother showing chickens to children? Like, children see chickens, you know, like they know what chickens are. They're domesticated farm animals, blah, 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 blah. And it's always interesting having to have this conversation with usually the adults. Like, usually the kids we have a lot of kids who are really excited when they see a chicken. Like, you never know. Like, even kids who have chickens at home are sometimes really excited to see a chicken at the zoo. It's usually the parents that are asking, or the teachers who are asking, well, why are you showing us a chicken and not a tiger? And like, we have tigers and everything like that, but for our animals that like people in my position would handle and be bringing like out of their habitats and holding them in our hands and not having a barrier between us and the people that we're showing the animal to, like, I don't want to handle a tiger. That's not safe. But a chicken's really safe for us to handle, as are some of our snakes and our tortoises and the ferrets. But yeah, it's sometimes a little awkward having to explain to parents and teachers, you know, like, why are we bringing domesticated animals as part of their programming rather than something that's more exotic. But I think it's an important conversation to have because, you know, sometimes kids leave these encounters being like, well, now I want a snake, or now I want a chinchilla or something like that. And I think it's really important to kind of have a bit of a conversation with those kids when you're showing them these animals that, hey, even though this might be an animal that you can find in a pet store, you know, like, that doesn't make it a good pet. or, like you got to do a lot of research and you got to be really careful, and it's important that you know a lot about these animals before you actually get them. Because a lot of people get these animals as impulse buys and then learn things about them that they didn't realize before getting them. And now they're stuck with an animal that they either can't take care of properly or don't want anymore. And they don't know how to rehome them, or they don't have the resources to rehome them. Yeah, like it's not a safe situation for either the pet owner or the pet to be in. So it's always interesting trying to navigate that without being kind of like doom and gloom. Like you don't want to, be too negative, especially with the kindergartners. Like it's really hard to talk to them about animal trafficking, like wildlife trafficking and poachers and like the really, really dark reality that a lot of these exotic animals, as being part of an industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry, like there's a lot of exploitation that happens there, and that you can't really have that conversation with kindergartners, right? So you gotta kind of like bring it down a level to where it's not like doom and glooming them, but also making sure that they're not going to go home and suddenly ask their parent, for an animal that the parents like aren't going to know anything about and the kid's not going to know anything about, but they could go to a pet store and buy it for, like $1. Yeah, it's so tricky, and pet stores are very deceptive about it. And it's not necessarily that, like the staff are deceptive about it. It's more the marketing of a lot of these animals is really deceptive. And makes it really hard for people to do proper research. Which again leads to putting both the owners and the animals in not great situations. As it's just hard. Like even doing all the research that I did for Udon, who's a ball python. He is not a like high difficulty animal by any stretch of the imagination. But like the amount of research that I did where I would get contradicting information, because he's an adult snake. And there isn't a lot of care guides that talk about snakes that are 10 plus years old and how their care changes when they're older animals. Like a lot of the care guides are all talking about baby snakes that are growing and what their requirements are. And there aren't really guides that talk about like, okay, well, I've got a middle-aged or a geriatric snake. What do I need to expect? What do I need to do? So, like, and I am a college-educated, environment degree person who has worked with animals my entire life. And if I'm saying that some of the research that I did for a common exotic species, like a ball python, is really confusing and unnecessarily complicated and constantly contradicting itself, I can't imagine, someone who's 8 years old or 10 years old or someone who's never worked with animals before, like coming into these spaces and trying to navigate being a responsible pet owner. It's not trivial. It is difficult. And a lot of these reptile brands put species on their packaging for different products those products are not appropriate for the species that they put on the boxes, on the packaging itself. And I'm like, that's really deceptive and, like sets people up for failure. And people assume that, oh yeah, the staff at a pet store are going to know how to take care of the animals that they're selling. And it's like, nope, they're not trained. Like, someone who's working in the beta section, selling the beta fish, is not trained on the parakeets, and they're not even trained on the beta fish. They're not trained on each individual species. They are trained on how to move product, and that's all these animals is they are product. And it's really interesting because, like, with Udon, he's in a bioactive, which means he's in an enclosure that has real dirt, real plants, and has, some insects and bacteria that are safe for him, that are living in the soil, that help decompose leaves and plant matter and create like a continuous cycle, basically, of nutrients for the plants. And when I went to put in our application to adopt Udon from a reputable rescue, they had never really run across someone who has attempted to do bioactive with a ball python specifically. So we almost got rejected because they were like, well, we haven't had this experience, so we don't know. And we're not sure if that's appropriate for this species or not. And this is after, like I had done, like a bunch of research and had invested in all of the stuff. So that was a little bit, like kind of a weird situation to navigate, because I was like, well, I was under the impression that I was doing everything right. But now these people who have the animal that are running the rescue, like are casting doubt on that. Now, luckily, like after some more conversations about it, and they talked with one of their vets who knew a little bit more about bioactive, everything was cleared. Nothing I was doing was wrong. But it just goes to show that even people who are working in rescues, there's going to be different ways of caring for these animals that they haven't run into before. And of course, like a rescue, if they're a good rescue, which this rescue is, they absolutely are. They're fabulous. They're great. Their approval process is really in depth, which I appreciate. But there's still stuff that, like even they haven't seen, and they are trying to get the best homes for these animals. So if there's something that someone's talking about that they haven't seen, like now they have to do their research and see, just because I sound confident and I claim that I did all my research, and they don't know me. I could have been lying. I wasn't, but they don't know. So now they've got to double check all that kind of stuff to make sure that they're not handing off an animal to someone who's blowing smoke up their ass. But yeah, no, exotic animal care is so difficult to navigate. It is so hard. Like, we're currently working on potentially adopting our second reptile. So we've done really well with Udon, and now we're ready to, add a new reptile to our family that is a little bit more involved in the care. And it's been a pain doing the research for the species, because the information for the species is even more all over the place and inconsistent and constantly evolving, because we're learning more about what these animals need because they're so under-researched. And again, like the care standards are evolving with the times as we learn more about them. So it's been very interesting, trying to figure out, what I should be ordering ahead of time before we could even apply for this animal, because this rescue that we got Udon from, they require you to prove that you have everything that you need before you're even allowed to apply for an animal, which again, I like their process, because just giving them a list of, I'm gonna order this or this, unless you send in pictures of your setup, you could be lying, right? So they try to make sure that you for sure are going to be someone who can take care of this animal. That's a hard decision to make. That's a really hard decision to make. I grew up with dogs and cats, so being in a household where we can't have hairy animals because my partner's allergic, and even she grew up with dogs and cats, but like her allergies have gotten worse over the years. So like it's been hard not having like a dog or a cat. And like Udon's really easy, you know, and he doesn't have hair, but he's not social in the way that a cat or a dog is. So that's a little hard sometimes. But yeah, it's cats and dogs just shed so much. There's like, that's one thing I don't miss about having a cat or a dog, is having hair all over my clothing. And considering I handle animals at the zoo, it's really good that we don't have a hairy animal, because I don't want to either have germs from the zoo animals that I handle or germs from my animals at home kind of like interacting in any sort of way, because that can create biohazard issues, biosecurity issues, I should say. But yeah, that's tricky. One of our family dogs that I was very close to passed away shortly after I moved down here, and that was really hard, because I wasn't like around for that dog's, you know, like final days and everything. And I know we've got a lot of friends who have had some pretty significant pet losses this year. So it's been really hard on them too. It's hard. It's hard either having a pet, you know, like that has reached end of life, or you have to put down, or you have to rehome, and then, you know, like deciding not to have certain pets anymore because of whatever circumstances there are. Like those are all really hard decisions to make, and hard situations to navigate. It's very emotional. We had a really good webinar that I helped facilitate. I didn't host it. I was tech support. That was with our grief hosts and a vet, and they were talking about grief in relation to pet loss, whether or not that was, you know, like the animal passing away, or being, you know, like not able to care for an animal anymore, or you know, changes in circumstances, like, oh, you're a college student and you had a pet, and now you're a high school student, and then you graduate, and then you're off to college, and you can't bring your pet with you. Like that kind of like grief attached to that kind of loss, that kind of life circumstance loss. And that webinar was really, really helpful for a lot of people who attended, who were going through that experience of that form of grief. Well, the other thing that like we had to have some discussions about in our household was like we want to travel. And having pets, especially like cats or dogs, makes traveling quite a bit harder. And that was part of like one of the main reasons of going with a snake, particularly a ball python. Is that, you know, if we go away for a weekend, it's not a huge deal. Like, he'll be okay. And then if we go away for longer than that, we can have someone, you know, check on the house, check on him, you know, like top up his water, change his water, but like they don't need to, he doesn't need to be fed daily. You know, he doesn't need to be taken out for walks daily, anything like that. Like you just basically need to make sure that his temperatures are good, his humidity's good, and then do water changes. And if we're gone for really long, okay, you feed him once, you know, and you check for snake poop and shed, you know, like, so having the snake, you know, if you can find a house sitter who's willing to also check on your snake, you know, like travel's still pretty accessible. That's part of the reason why we were like, oh yeah, like let's go ahead and adopt, you know, a lizard next, which is going to need a little bit more care, more regular care, or more involved care, I would rather say, throughout the week. You know, like, oh, we're not going to travel as much this year because like we're only on a single income right now, and instead of two incomes, which we were in the previous year. So it's like, okay, we're on a single income. We're not going to travel as much. So we can justify, you know, having a more involved reptile because we're just going to be home, you know, like we'll be around. So that was one of the reasons why we're like, oh yeah, like this is a good time to add another reptile to our household because we're gonna have the time to dedicate to it. But now we're also like, oh, but if we're gonna potentially move within the next year, maybe now isn't the right time to get another reptile because moving with reptiles is hard. Because you need to check to see if you can even legally bring your reptile with you, because some reptiles are illegal in certain states or in certain countries. So that's fun. Even more Googling that we get to do. More research. Oh man, there's quite a bit of proportion fixing I need to do on some of these characters. It's almost 11. Yeah, we're not gonna start that tonight. That's fine. We made some progress. We talked about interesting things. That's all that matters. Yeah, that's tricky too. Like we own our house, but we live in a townhome. So we have to be there are still some pet restrictions because we live in a townhome with an HOA, even though we own our house. But yeah, like that was part of the reason when I first moved down here and we lived in the apartment, like I had always told my parents, like, as soon as I move out and I'm not on a school campus, I'm gonna get a snake, because I've always wanted a snake. And my dad has got a phobia of snakes, so I could never have a snake when I was living at home. And so it was always my goal, is that as soon as I lived in a place that allowed snakes, I would get a snake. And we lived in the apartment, and I would assume that it probably had a no snake clause. I don't remember reading that anywhere, but like It was a very small area. And our income wasn't particularly high, so we still didn't end up getting a snake then. But as soon as we moved here to the house, I was like, I can have a snake here. I can have a certain size of snake here, as long as it's not a big one. We can have a snake. So that's how we ended up with Udon. And he's been great. He's been a very good first snake, and he's gonna be a very good first snake for a long time because he's still pretty young. Automod has decided to say that you saying it's good you have your snake now is you bullying me. Absolutely not. Stop the discrimination against snakes. Yeah, permitted term. Your snake. It's fine. I have a snake. That's fine, Automod. It's interesting how what it decides is in its vocabulary and what it counts as certain phrases. I imagine I'll probably have to do a lot more fiddling with it if our chats get more active. For now, it's fine because I don't have to touch it that often. But yeah, that's really funny. Because how is even just the your, like, I could see if it was the you are, like, you are a snake, like, that could be seen as bullying, but your snake, as in the snake you own, that makes absolutely no sense. I don't understand how that's bullying. That's so silly. Whatever. That's... We could really make it mad by talking about, talking about the bird that's named after a certain, body part of the human anatomy. I don't know if it would flag tits or not, but that is a type of bird. What? Why is it? That wasn't even the bird I was talking about. Why did it flag woodpeckers? Is it just because you put a space in between the two words? Why did it flag that? A woodpecker's just a bird. That is wild. That is wild. There's some animal discrimination going on with Automod, I tell ya. That is so funny. Alright, well, I don't think I'm making any more comic progress on this tonight. So, what we did is what we did, which we're getting there. That's 2 panels with characters done. I was hoping to have this page done tonight, but that's okay. We'll get there eventually. I'll probably stream tomorrow night, I think. And probably on Thursday as well, unless me and Court, we've got a panel that we're doing at Free Comic Book Day on Saturday, and Court says she has 4 PowerPoint slides so far, which is not a complete presentation yet. So, we might either stream working on the PowerPoint, because then that'll help us review what we need to keep in the PowerPoint anyway. And we might also have a stream where we do a test run of it. Because our presentation is 45 minutes with 15 minutes of asking questions afterwards, so an hour long, I think. And we need to practice, because I don't know, Court's fine, you know, like flying by the seat of her pants. But I'm like, if we're both presenting, then we probably should know what we're gonna talk about and how long we're gonna spend on any one topic. Because it's a comics 101 panel, so it is the basics of making comics. But that is such a huge topic, as such a huge broad topic. And I already know that there's a lot of things that we could spend the entire hour talking on that's just like one portion of drawing comics. So we probably need to rehearse, and having some feedback from people would probably be helpful. So we'll see if we get organized enough to do that as a stream before Saturday. I don't know. Well, we'll also see. Like, I don't know if we're gonna play D&D this week. We'll find out. Yeah, we'll figure it out eventually, and like, it's just an hour long. It's not a huge deal. We'll figure it out. Yeah, I don't know how we would add talking about Applebee's into the panel. Yeah, I don't know what that has to do with making comics at all. That's okay. You can still ask that, because that gives us good practice of being like, that's off topic. We're not going to talk about that. Anyway, thank you so much for hanging out. Nice chatting with you. Good luck on your composing and all the stuff that you're working on, and I'm sure we will talk more once we start getting closer to the game jam, and we get everything figured out. I definitely will do some streaming of my portion of that project on my end, leading up to it, because there's a lot of coding I need to learn for it, and I'm sure as hell not learning that in 10 days. So, have a good night. Thanks for hanging out.